All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So today we will be talking about the weed sector, and let's be honest, it's been pretty disappointing. So I'm going to tell you why a lot of this could have been avoided. There are definitely some stocks that did really well and brought some nice percentages, so it's not like this was all sad and gloom, right? But yeah, generally speaking, there was a lot more money to be made outside of this sector. I'm gonna show you why that should have been visible to you, okay? Real quick, if you can please like and subscribe, that would really help with the YouTube algorithms and the machines. Nonetheless, I sincerely appreciate your time, okay? So what are we gonna do today? We're actually gonna look at the major markets, which I normally don't do on this, but I'll take 2 minutes of your time doing it. I'm not gonna go too deep, okay? But we're gonna look at the daily and the weekly, just like we always do. We're gonna use our 5 moving averages, these horizontal support and resistance lines, and then when we're done up here, we're going to use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators, okay? So really quickly, okay, I've mentioned this a couple times. I don't really do it on every video, right? But there's not a lot of tech in these weed stocks, right? The lighter that you use to spark it up is probably the most, technical thing in this whole industry, right? We're literally talking about things in the dirt that grow that end up getting dried and go into a brick and mortar store and then bought by it. That's literally as non-tech as I can get, right? And when I think of non-tech stocks, I look at the Dow Jones, all right? And you can see that slope right there is pretty in line with TLRY, okay? And then when you look at something like NASDAQ that does that, right? You can definitely see that the focus is going to be on tech. And now let's go back real quick, okay? Let's actually stay here. So in December, kind of that November, December, you can see NASDAQ sucks right there, right? But if you remember, that's actually when weed was doing well, and that's when the Dow Jones was killing it, right? And we did well in that little Dow Jones. No, when I say little, that's by no means little, right? But we did well when Dow did well. We'd started to kind of suck and actually kind of go flat, right? When the Dow Jones did, right? And it's just something to consider, right? And I often say it, there are other places you should be looking other than where your money is. Okay, it's important to get cues from other places, and that does apply to these weed stocks. So I actually think I'm showing post. Sorry, let me do regular hours only. Perfect. Okay, now we're ready. So cool. With all that, let's get into the charts, okay? So I mentioned this on TLRY. I never liked the way that these lines were stacked up, okay? The way that the moving averages are stacked up and spaced out is really important to what I trade, right? And getting over 2 lines is really difficult, and then breaking them and having the 200, our very last one right behind it, it sucks. And as much as I always say red will turn into green. It really was so prolonged because of that double line right there, and then ultimately the 200 being just like right next to it, right? So, and again, obviously I flashed that Dow Jones chart, which again, if you look at it, it is really in line with that, right? So all that said, it kind of says you should have had your money elsewhere, right? And again, I'm obviously a swing trader. If you're here for the long term, right, hey, maybe this is a good point, right? I mean, I don't talk long term very much, but yeah, short term, like from literally the month, oh my gosh, the money was elsewhere, right? But hey, nonetheless, we've at least, what seems like, I'm just zooming out a lot, slowed down the bleeding, starting to go a little more horizontal, trying to make a couple more uptrends, right? But look, if this can get over that 200 moving average, it'll be a completely different story. And I love the fact that we've actually broken it not that long ago. It was literally like a month and a half or 2 months ago, right? So let's just get over it, and the story will change. But really, Tilly, I haven't been wildly optimistic on this in a while, right? And it's not that I've been bearish, but I've said these two are going to be hard to break, and then the last one's always the hardest one, especially on that zoom out that you saw how hard it was, right? And then look, I like that the MACD's at least staying above the red line. I'm glad that it's in the positive, but yeah, I want the RSI to do the same thing, right? These two should be in unison, and when they are, it adds more, right? So Volume looks good. I'm glad there's been more buying, right? So, hey, let's see what happens. But coming up on the end of the week, right? So what does the weekly look like? Oh, man. Let's make it a win by getting over 336, okay? If tomorrow can close at 336, that'll put us over the 20. And hey, you know I would much rather be over than under the 20, right? That 20 is such a pesky little line. It's almost as pesky as that 8, right? So that would be cool. But look, I mean, we're bouncing off the 8. We've bounced off the 20, right? We're using the lines. That's a good thing, right? Instead of, I got to zoom out a little bit more. But yeah, instead of being unable to get over them, right? We're actually kind of starting to bounce on them and maybe using them as support. Look, we've done it before. This line stopped it. Let's do it again, break that line, and then, yeah, completely different story, right? So, but again, just Dow Jones needs to do a little better, and then a lot of these will do a little better, okay? ACB, all right, look, this one has been pretty aligned with TLRY actually, and again, that same not a crazy upward slope like and I'll just flash it again real quick. DJ30, same view, roughly speaking, exact same slope, right? These stocks aren't going to do as well or aren't going to do much better, excuse me, than the Dow will, okay? Again, same basic story, right? The spacing was definitely a little better. These two are not as stacked. There's clearly a way nicer gap between those lines. Unfortunately, this one just couldn't red, and I've said it so often. ACB lags when profits are to be had, but ACB is right there when it's ready to lose the money, I swear. So ACB I kind of get annoyed with, but this had significantly better moving average line setups, right? This was not as tight a cluster. You can't even see the 200. That's how nice a break it would have been if it had it. And we get this nice little red. But again, I say it often, this stock lags, and it's annoying. It really is. But I would say, I mean, MACD actually does look a little better. RSI, again, still that same flat. And actually, volume does look a little better here. So again, it seems like good things. But yeah, I mean, just seemingly disappointing is really what it is. Get over that 100. Man, we haven't even come close to the 200 yet, right? So yeah, I mean, get over the 100 at least. That'll make us feel good. And check it out, the 200 actually lines up pretty much with the top of that. So that would be a pretty important break right there. I'll be honest, and clearly I know how far it is. I'm basically giving away almost 50% of a climb, but yeah, I'd much rather know when it's up here than even in this thing, because just honestly, I think that's just my little personal bias. So sorry, let me show the weekly real quick. But yeah, ACB, you should have done way better. Man, just look at this. I didn't even have to zoom back in. This 20 on the weekly, right? I say it, the 20 on the weekly is such a pesky line, all right? But once it can start doing the curve up and it goes from this like wall you can't get over to this like floor you can never fall below, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful thing, right? But yeah, we're just not quite there. This is a nice little setup, but we've seen that nice little setup before, right? So again, I'm a little pessimistic on this stock, right? So, and I don't think that's a bad thing, honestly. Prove me wrong, right? And I'm more than willing to give you my money, ACB. But until you do, why am I gonna adjust my my expectations, right? I say it often, or at least like I say it in comments and stuff, but having higher expectations for where you put your money will do you really well, especially your money well, right? So just don't feel bad that you have high expectations, all right? It's like marrying someone, right? Don't set your standards low. Again, look at this, almost the exact same slope, right? I think that's actually the biggest story across the three. It's just these, I'm just going to show it one more time, super quick. These all just kind of line up with that Dow Jones, the Dow Jones. Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? So, again, this thing was on the cusp, right? Beautiful break, an amazing break of 3 lines right there. I always say it though, you need confirmation, and clearly today you see why, right? OGI, again, just so many reds. And look, this thing ran most of it. There was a very nice gain from 70 to 90, right? I started this video by saying some of these did pretty well, right? And going from 70 to 90 is a little more than, it's actually a good amount more than 20%, right? Because 20% would be 14 cents. We've actually gone a little more than 20 cents, right? So by no means is this a disappointment. What I'm disappointed about is it should have done that. You know what I mean? I'm not here to put my money horizontally. I'm here to put it up. I'll take horizontal over down. Don't get me wrong, but again, technical analysis, this green 8 should keep going up, should keep breaking lines, golden cross after golden cross after golden cross, right? So that's what's bothering me. But I mean, an over 20% gain, you can't be mad. I mean, there are other places that would have brought you more money, and that's where you get disappointed. But hey, don't be mad, right? So just a little bit of like honest perspective right there, right? But man, I'll tell you, I crushed January. I hope you crushed January. And it just goes to this, every dollar counts, and don't put it horizontal. Horizontal is better than down, but there were places to go up, all right? Let's look at the weekly real quick. I imagine, yeah, see, this is going to look like a lot of the weeklies. This 20 is still definitely the pesky line right here. What I do like is that the 50 is at least a little lower, and we've made some attempts, right? So, hey, maybe we can get a nice little run from here to here. Again, I think it's the same story. If we can actually get over this line, what's the 118 look like on the daily? See, that'll put us well over the, not only will it put us over the 200, it'll put us over that peak, give or take, right? I think that's it's a little farther than I think you probably need to. I think this line will probably be the better line. And really, you can set a line right here. This might be an interesting entry as well if you can break this Friday the 13th candle. But again, moral of the story is break these moving averages, which I can't do just yet. But OGI. HEXO, come into HEXO. Again, HEXO did really well, right? This thing went from less than $1 to well over $1.50, right? That's a beautiful 50% rise. This might have been one of the best ones on the sector. But again, what bothers me is they all should have done this, right? There's no reason that this is now the fourth stock? Yeah, this is the fourth stock we're on. This is the only one that's run that much, right? That bothers me. There's no reason that looks like that, right? When you go floop and then flat, right? Why is this one flat, right? Why is this one flat, right? I mean, why don't they all look like this? That bothers me. That's why we do these sector reviews, right? I was very bullish on HEXO. Again, none of my videos are financial advice, but hey, hopefully you made some moves on HEXO if you were in this industry, right? Again, tech is where I think you wanted to be in the month, but nonetheless, who's going to turn away from literally a 64% gain, right? This is easy math, right? $1 to 64, and it was actually a little bit under, right? But roughly speaking, it was $1 when it broke the 8, right? So yeah, how are you going to be mad? What bothers me is that this is the outlier. It should not be. They should all be doing this, and everyone smiles, regardless what stock you're in, right? You don't want to be jealous of the HEXO people. You want to be as happy as them, right? So, yeah, again, just my thoughts, right? These are just the opinions of someone on the internet. But yeah, this is a good weekly, right? I mean, sets of greens in a row is a beautiful thing. We're definitely making up for that. It's starting to go from a lot of uptrend to a little bit of a cooling, right? So, I'm still glad that we're over the last week, which was over the last week. Like we're still going up, but yeah, we're not going as violently up, right? So just something to consider. But again, there's still plenty of room if this thing still moves the way it does. And look, we're on an important place right now. If you break the 50, where are you going to go? You're going to go to the 100. That's how this goes, especially when, where are we? We're in a place where all that there is reds anywhere on this. Look how far I'm zooming out. All that we have here is these little bad boys right here, right? So we're going to go ahead and set an alert 169. Let me know. Man, I'm not going to lie. The last couple mornings, because I'm on the West Coast, just bing, 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 bing market open at 6:30. My wife was hating it, but again, it means money in my head, right? So Hexo, honestly, obviously the best one so far. Again, a flat chart. I disagree. This one's actually a little bit up. Did you make a 50 banger? Not really. Kind of actually. You went up $1. You were close. Okay. Hey, nice though. And again, look, this rode the 8 up versus riding the 8 horizontal, right? So yeah, this actually does look pretty good right here. This almost looks NASDAQ-y actually. So, and look where we're at right now, okay? So first and foremost, there was a nicer gap and it actually, so let me take that back. Let's look at TLRY real quick. The gap actually was about the same. The thing with TLRY though is it made a really big move and then had to go horizontal versus CGC's little slow and steady movements up, right? So I think that had a lot to do with the spacing and how it eventually played. And look, it actually starts to open up as it got closer to it, right? So it never tested this when it was a cluster. It actually came into it as it opened up, which is pretty interesting actually. We're now over these lines, right? And plenty of red still. Where are we compared to that? Oh man, nice. And then as I zoom out, where are we compared to that? Okay, so we're pretty much on these right here. Okay, so yeah, look, I could see this slowing it down, but at that point, because you're on the bottom of this and this, you're pretty much testing the 200 right there, right? The one important thing, look, so we definitely break it right there. We definitely get good confirmation. This doji is very telling right here, right? People were just really uncertain if it was going to go up all the way or if it was going to come down, right? And market was a little interesting. NASDAQ definitely had a beautiful day, but Dow Jones, I think, closed in the red. We flashed it a couple times already. I actually don't know. But yeah, it was an interesting day to say the least. And I think that's what says the doji. But yeah, hey, we've at least now seen two that aren't bad. How did CRON do? I'll be honest. Oh, wait, let's look at the weekly real quick. Okay, so interesting weekly. We are definitely over both the 8 and the 20 on the weekly at this point. I wish the RSI looked a little better, and I'm surprised that the volume isn't like up to here, up in that 50 million, right? Near that 50 moving average. But nonetheless, this is a nice little weekly, right? How did it look compared to Hexo? Actually, it looks better than Hexo because it is on the 20. Interesting. Interesting. CGC, I think market conditions pending. This thing definitely wants to keep going. RSI is a little high, all right? Maybe, I mean, but again, look, the 8's right there. You have 2 lines. There's not much it'll go down if it's going to go down. But yeah, maybe we see it kind of bounce, bring this RSI back down to 60 and go. But yeah, there's a lot of reason to believe this actually should be wanting to at least go to the 200 right there. Okay, interesting on CRON. Ooh, all right. There's a couple things happening here, right? So this thing was lagging CGC, could not, finally does get over the 20, right? And look, good. This is a good candle. This does not count as confirmation. I will say wait for the following day. Clearly that was the following day, right? MACD starting to take off. This is a little tight, but it kind of looks like it wants to take off, right? But I think this is going to be the real important line, this 260 right here. I'm going to go ahead and set an alert. Yeah, 260. We'll go 261. We'll go penny over it. Because again, look, there is a good amount of red to be filled, and it's not it's not fantastic, but there's definitely decent little spacings between it, right? So hopefully we take this one first, then this one, and this one. Right, slow and steady is actually not that bad a thing. But yeah, CRON looks like it actually wants to make some moves. And look, first time in a good while, this thing wants to close over the 8 on the weekly, right? That's step 1 to getting yourself some good daily charts, right? So yeah, let's see how this closes tomorrow, right? This definitely needs to stay at where it is right now, or definitely, I mean, yeah, it has to stay. It can't go lower because we don't want to close on the line. On the line really doesn't count much for me. So stay at 258 or obviously go a little higher, right? But yeah, I'd love to break this 260 line and kind of start the uptrend. That could be really cool. SNDL, again, this one really should have done more. You know what I mean? Like it's disappointing, right? And Yeah, like if it could have broken these two, there was such a nice gap to run it. Clearly today was the first day, but let's be honest, right? Obviously the day tomorrow counts a little bit more because and I'm expecting a lot, right? So I got a little ahead of myself. But if you're gonna break two lines, I need good confirmation and let's see what it does tomorrow. I like that steady rise in volume though. That's actually a little that's a comforting thing to see right there. And then, yeah, definitely a lot of downtrend. Where are we compared to that? Okay, so I can see the next resistance being around this 250 area. What number are you at? Yeah, 250 for sure is going to be the spot. But yeah, if it could break 250, it'll probably come to this 280. If not, maybe even just make a good run to the 200 right there. But yeah, it's at least starting to pick up a little bit on these last ones, right? So HEXO, CGC, CRON, and SNDL have actually looked all right, especially compared to those first ones, right? What does this weekly look like? Again, just riding that 20, man. I'm telling you, it's such a pesky little line, right? So get over that 20 and it'll do good things, right? And there's been moments where it's like actually made a good little run when it broke it too, right? But we're here for some sustained breaks, right? So but it's close. It's definitely knocking on the door, and tomorrow's confirmation might actually be pretty important. So let's see how that ends up going. MSOS. Okay, I mean, I think this line really speaks for itself, right? There's obviously a lot of downtrend to break if it can. Way good spacing right there, right? It's just literally this thing's not doing it, right? And I mean, there's been a good amount of selling, good little buys these last couple days, right? But yeah, I probably wouldn't touch this thing until it probably got over that, I think, right? Are we actually over? Yeah, we are. So look, definitely breaks the 20, technically still over it, but by no means is that good confirmation, right? Hopefully tomorrow at least puts us here a little bit more. Obviously anywhere higher is better, right? But yeah, I think this thing still has a little bit to prove. I think getting over this line might not be easy, but again, if it does, that's where the downtrend is hopefully going to turn into an uptrend, right? So I'd be watching for that. Let's take a look at the weekly. It's an ugly weekly. There's not too much more to talk about right there, but HITI. You know, it's funny. There's a lot of people that actually do end up watching this one. It's been interesting, actually. I did not know this stock very well, but it seems like it has an interesting following. So look, this thing went horizontal for a good while, right? And I often say it, if you're going to break a horizontal, you're either going to go up violently or down. And I mean, it did. It went from $1.50. It's not even that big a percent, man. That really sucks. Jeez, sorry, I'm trying to kind of do the quick math in my head, right? But yeah, it would have been nice if this thing did more of that HEXO CGC move, right? But yeah, same kind of horizontally slope that we have here. This looked really promising, obviously, right? But again, I say it often, technicals work better when your average volume is like in the millions, okay? Volume is king. As more and more are buying it, it's a little bit easier to be predictable with the lines, right? But yeah, that should have done a little better than it really did. And it, you know, how actually did you do as well as you should have done? Yeah, you know, you actually did. You wicked pretty high up. You took all of that red. All right, so hey, not too shabby. You can see the high. It actually did take most of the red, but again, just percentage wise, I think I would have expected more. But yeah, people really seem to like high tide. It's one that I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had a penny in this thing since I've been watching this thing, but I had no idea it had that big a following. And I mean, look, there's definitely a lot of downtrend on the weekly, right? So if you're patient enough, and if this 8 and the 20 can start going up, again, I've mentioned it on a couple ones, that's where it'll stop being really hard to get over it. And then, you know, it'll hopefully just be really hard to go under it, right? But high tide is just not quite there yet. And man, I'll be honest, that's disappointing for sure. We are now technically under the 8 as well, right? So I don't want to be under the 8, but you're definitely on the higher side of this 4, right? So that's about halfway. You're at least on this upper quadrant. Did you get over the 8? No, you didn't get over the 8, but yeah, hopefully it gets over the 8 tomorrow. And really, if it gets over the 8 tomorrow, it should come back to 170 or maybe around like 166, around 50% candle of this. So 166 or 170 are going to be the good numbers I'm looking for. Do not fall under 151. I do not want to go under that, right? That would not be good. Weekly, this isn't a bad weekly. Now, Let's see where tomorrow holds. But again, 50% candle, roughly speaking, is like right there, right? And roughly speaking, that's about half of that one as well. So let's at least stay over 160, 161. Where does 160? Yeah, because that'll at least keep us over the 50 as well, right? Again, let's go up. Let's not go down too much. But yeah, maybe this just needed to kind of, but the RSI, did it get high? Yeah, it did get high. Got into 85s. All right. Gets in the, okay, so now I'm really seeing what happened here. Sorry about that. You really nicely filled this gap. I wish it was a nicer percentage, but you actually did your job. Your RSI got as high as 85, 83, right? That's going to deserve a cool down. You've now brought it back to 58 and you're kind of bouncing up. You might have a good shot at making another run here. So this one's actually a little bit on the positive side as well. So took me a little longer to see what was going on. I think I went a little too fast right there. So sorry about that. TCNNF. This is true. Again, I live in the States. I have to look at the Canadian pink ticker, right? Get over the 20. There's nothing more that needs to be said, and that's really been the story for a while. The one good thing is we're at least back over the 8, right? But yeah, if we can break that, there's a lot of down. And really, I think if we can break that, it'll be way cleaner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise that to there. But then that puts us so close there. Okay, fine. Let's do this. Let's do this. We're going to keep it right there. We're going to keep it right there. I think roughly speaking, that's where it was. But there's not too much more I want to say there. This can't be a good weekly. Yeah, not at all, right? Do a little bit more. Get me a little bit going up, right? It goes horizontal, but then kind of back down, right? So yeah, definitely not much more needs to be discussed here. CURLF, okay, really same exact chart, right? Get over the 20 and good things will happen. It looked like this was going to fall, but at least we're on the 8. And I imagine, yeah, exactly. There's a little bit more green in this one. I'm sure I talked about that in the last video, but definitely trading well under the 8. So neither of these two Canadian tickers are well worth discussing more, actually. This did well. This, I know I had a few alerts hit on. I did not trade most of this. I was honest about that, but we're now starting to peek at this, okay? And again, I think there's a couple things that are really going to be important, right? First and foremost, how is the 8 going to hold up here, okay? Is it going to keep going up? Are we actually going to get to bounce? Because look, we've used these lines pretty well, right? We break nothing fantastic, but we break nothing and then we start to bounce a little bit, right? And that's okay. Bouncing is good, right? That means we're using the lines. At this point, it's really about, are we going to need to cool down? Because look, the RSI got high, got to the 85 range, but we're already at 75, right? So do we need to come back down before it goes up, or are we actually going to fill? So just watch how this one opens, okay? This one's done really well. I hope you've done well. There's definitely been a lot of pain on this one, right? So I don't know where people have been on. We've actually been watching this one for a good while too, right? So just be careful. But you can see it again here on the weekly, right? That's a real nice peak on the weekly. There's a nice increase on the weekly, and those 2 days actually look better than those 2 days, right? So yeah, there's reason to believe green lane's knocking on the door, right? What number is this? 77. Where does 77 cents put us on the daily? So 77 cents might be a resistance, okay? It's on the weekly, all right? So I'm not going to draw the line because there's literally no reason for me to put it right here, right? But 77 cents might be a little bit of a resistance, but literally this thing's either going to run up or it's just going to kind of, you know, just cool off a little bit. I wish this was lower, okay? Because that's what helped fill that, right? That was low enough to make all those reds turn into greens. You know, this going horizontal would have actually helped a little bit if it went down right here and then went back up. But again, whatever, is what it is, right? RSI is just a little high, but I mean, let's be honest. There have been some silly RSI. I think Carvana was in the 90s or something, right? Like, there's been some silly stock stuff happening, but this one's interesting for sure. And again, we already spoke about the weekly. So green lane was well worth talking a little extra on. UGRO, this is another one, right? And again, you can see the volume increases too. I didn't even talk about that on the last one, right? But I mean, that's big volume jumps, right? Especially when like we were literally down here for most of these, right? We were like sub 100Ks roughly, right? So the fact that we're hitting millions again, I mean, people they care, right? Like this one, grow. Like this one again, right? When it's this one's not as big, but again, break these two lines, go up, it's doing well. Um, oh man, there's a nice little gap fill right there too. Interesting. All right, interesting. Yeah, this one was one of the worst for a good while. This one is definitely starting to make some moves here. Let me draw some lines. I have no lines at all here. I'll put one right there. Where are we compared to that? Put one right there. Nice. You did break that. Yeah, I mean, really, at this point, there's a lot of reason to believe you're coming here. Maybe that'll stop. Oh, and that's exactly where we're at, actually. Right? It hits that, it hits that, and it hits that. Okay, interesting. Yeah, look, just open positively. And there's a lot of reason to believe this is going to the 200. 71's by, I know it seems close to 75, but 71 gives you a lot of breathing room to 80, right? So a lot of reason to believe this one actually can still keep going up. That is looking nice, actually. UGRO, look at that. Good weekly too. Gotta love the way that that thing broke the 20 pretty definitively. MACD and RSI are now starting to kind of peak up together, right? So a good amount of buying over the last couple weeks. Interesting. There's a lot of downtrend to make up here, right? So where are we compared to that? That's where we wick too. Yeah, again, if this thing just goes up a little bit, this weekly looks good, which again, good weekly should make you feel good about the daily, right? So GRWG. Again, look at this, right? So super, super tight, right? Super, super tight. This was the first day we broke the top of the cluster, right? You gotta wait for the next day confirmation. This isn't bad, but it's not great, right? Obviously, we did close a little bit lower, not a lot lower, well above 50%, right? But, you know, it's when you break the 200 like it did here, you want good confirmation. When you break the last line, you still want good confirmation, right? So a lot is definitely happening here. These moving averages are so tight, but I mean, that's a nice golden cross. That's a nice golden cross. That one didn't happen. That would have been nice if it happened as well, right? But man, this one, and look at all of these, right? Where are we compared to that? That's basically where we're at, right? So yeah, if it could get over this leg, there's a lot of reason to believe it'll want to get to 8. So, but that's not going to be an easy line to get over. And just looking at, oops, sorry, wrong way. Looking at the RSI, I don't know why it's kind of coming down that way. I think people were just expecting a little bit better of a break on the 50 if I had to guess. But I think tomorrow is going to matter a lot, right? Don't go any lower than 542. Obviously, you want to break 566, right? Get 567 or anything higher, right? So, yeah, this one looks good. And again, this was a decent prop. This one was actually not quite 50%, but almost $2 were made. So, roughly speaking, 4 to 6, right? So, not too bad right there. HYFM. All right, what are we looking at? What are we looking at? A whole mess of reds. Definitely that same kind of horizontal. Again, I would have loved it to keep going, right? But again, I think I was just getting a little bit greedy maybe. But yeah, this isn't too bad of movements right here. 73 is not too low. Did we actually get over the 100? We're on the 100. I'm not a big fan of calling on broken. Again, I only see 2 decimals, so if you can see more, you'll know if we actually broke it or not. But yeah, being on the line is not good enough for me, right? So, and really, we've actually taken most of this red. So it kind of, I could see this being maybe where it stops. And yeah, that 100's been no joke. So keep that in mind. We've actually, breaking that 100's been difficult. If we can break that 100, oh man, that's gonna be huge in all honesty, right? And actually, that's a beautiful MACD. I wish RSI was a little better. There's some stuff that say it might, but again, I wish it wasn't Friday. I hate tradings on Friday. I kind of always assume it's gonna be bad, right? But yeah, I just watch what the Dow Jones does, right? If it could make a good move, a lot of these will do a lot better. So, hey, I hope you're learning. Have a great one.